Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking the totally fascinating psychology behind why we buy, how we interact with brands, and honestly, how a single, simple purchase can ripple out into massive market trends.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever experienced just intense buyer's remorse? Or, on the flip side, been totally pleasantly surprised by a brand new purchase? We all have, right? Today, we're going to take some pretty powerful academic theories and ground them in those exact, relatable, everyday experiences so we can figure out what is actually going on in our brains when we consume.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today's Explainer. We're going to start with the science of satisfaction, then move into expectation versus reality, explore the battle between brand loyalty and variety seeking, check out some strategies for market segments, and then finally wrap up with the product adoption curve.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the science of satisfaction. Understanding consumer fulfillment is literally the foundational building block of absolutely all consumer behavior. At the very core of this is a concept called expectancy disconfirmation. Now, I know that sounds a bit dense, but it simply measures the degree to which a product's actual performance either exceeds or falls short of your pre-purchase expectations. You see, satisfaction isn't just about how good a product is in a vacuum. It's entirely about that gap, the space between what we expected going in and what we actually experienced once we used the thing.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, expectation versus reality, where we're going to map out exactly how this expectation gap works in practice.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it traces the flow of our thoughts. Just imagine you're buying a new smartphone. Over on the top left, you start with your pre-purchase performance expectations. You buy it, you use it, and then over on the top right, you form your post-purchase performance perceptions. See how the arrows point right down to disconfirmation? That is the critical moment where reality meets your expectation, and that directly funnels down into your ultimate feeling, either satisfaction or dissatisfaction.
So, this disconfirmation actually comes in 3 distinct flavors. Positive disconfirmation means the performance exceeded your expectations. It's kind of like expecting a standard run-of-the-mill fast food burger and getting this 5-star gourmet meal instead. You are highly satisfied. Negative disconfirmation is obviously the exact opposite. Performance falls short and boom, you're dissatisfied. And neutral? Well, that's just when the product does exactly what you expected it to do. No more, no less.
But here's a critical question for us. Does a highly satisfied customer guarantee a repeat purchase? Well, not necessarily. Let's jump into Section 3, brand loyalty versus variety seeking, the ultimate battle of consumer habits.
On one hand, we have brand loyalty, and this is a deep, intrinsic commitment to repeatedly purchase one specific brand. Think of the creature of habit who buys the exact same running shoes for 10 years straight. On the other hand, we have variety seeking. Now, this isn't driven by dissatisfaction at all. Rather, it's a cognitive commitment to switch brands purely for stimulation, curiosity, or just novelty. You know, it's the thrill seeker who wants to try some bizarre new flavor of potato chips just for the fun of it.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we map consumer commitment against the number of brands purchased. High commitment to a single brand is for sure true brand loyalty. But what about low commitment to a single brand? Well, that's just repeat purchase behavior. You're probably just buying it out of pure convenience. On the flip side, high commitment to multiple brands is true variety seeking. And honestly, my personal favorite is derived varied behavior, which is basically just a fancy way of saying you only switch brands because your usual was out of stock, or maybe you just found a really great coupon. All right, Section 4, strategies for market segments. Let's look at how we target usage and loyalty.
So, how do companies actually handle these totally different consumer mindsets? Well, when we cross brand loyalty with a consumer's usage rate, the ultimate target becomes pretty clear. Are your consumers heavy users or light users? For marketers, attracting loyal consumers is overwhelmingly the most valuable when those consumers are also heavy users. That top right quadrant, the brand loyal heavy users, that is absolutely the ultimate goldmine for any business.
Depending on where a consumer falls, marketers use very specific strategies. If you've got brand-loyal heavy users, think die-hard Apple fans or frequent flyers, your strategy is to shift their loyalty to your overall corporate brand. For brand-loyal light users, the focus shifts to just increasing how often they use the product. Now, if you're dealing with variety-seeking heavy users, you really want to make your brand name a salient, top-of-mind attribute so they keep rotating you into their mix. And finally, for variety-seeking light users, marketers basically have to find a sustainable relative advantage just to grab their fleeting attention.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into the product adoption curve, exploring the diffusion of innovation. Let's zoom out to the macro level. Here we have the classic bell curve of adoption. This visualizes a very important reality. Different types of consumer personalities embrace new products at completely different stages of a product's life cycle. Basically, not everyone jumps on board on day one. Chronologically, it breaks down into 5 categories like this. First up, the innovators, making up just 3 to 5%. They are super venturesome and totally willing to take risks. Their behavior actually influences the early adopters, the next 10 to 15%, who are highly respected and, in turn, sway the deliberate early majority. Now, once that massive 34% jumps in, the product officially goes mainstream. Later on, the more skeptical late majority cautiously adopts, and last to the party are the highly traditional, set-in-their-ways laggards. So the crucial point is, when a disruptive new innovation hits the market, which category of the adoption curve do you actually fall into? Are you the risk-taking innovator, or maybe the skeptical laggard? Understanding these psychological drivers, from your immediate post-purchase expectations to your intrinsic loyalty habits, all the way to your place on the macro adoption curve, it really completely changes how you view your own buying behavior. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it leaves you with a brand new perspective on your very next purchase.